podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a special edition of Chat with Chaps. This will actually end up being the very first Chat with Chaps show under the new Chat with Chaps podcast, and will also be the first of a very special new series, which is all around bringing special guests on to the podcast. And if you're listening to this, then that means we have officially announced the signing of Japhet Tanganga. And to cast your mind back a couple of days ago, a journalist from Italy, his name is Luca Bendoni, broke the news story that we had agreed that deal and the medical was about to be undertaken. And we are very excited to be joined by Luca Bendoni, who joins us from the group Marzio. We're going to talk to him a little bit about Tanganga, his role, and we're going to get into it. It's going to be a really good, exciting interview, and of course, certainly a massive exclusive. So, Luca, welcome to the show.
Thank you, May. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm very glad to have brought you this piece of news because I think you have loved this one.
I think there's a lot of Millwall fans that were very happy to see what you posted. I think there was quite a few skeptical Millwall fans, as you probably wasn't as known to some of the Millwall fans, right?
It's normal.
And we're a skeptical bunch anyway. So, but no, really appreciate you taking the time out, Luca, to join us today. So let's jump straight in. So, how did you hear about Japhet Tanganga joining Millwall?
So there are many sources in journalism, and I try to rely just on the ones that are directly involved, or still look for some sort of confirmation of parties that are involved in the deal directly by themselves. I don't tend to trust those rumors like my friend said, my friend heard, because often they can get the news, but sometimes you miss, and it's a huge miss. So from parties that were directly in the deal, I got the confirmation from England, and as soon as I got it, I knew that it was a good piece of news because Millwall fans have been trying to understand something about Tanganga for a while now after he left the team last season, returning to Tottenham. Now that his contract with Tottenham has expired, it's a good piece of news, and I'm very happy to have released it. And I hope it's just the first one of many.
Yeah, and we were very excited when you put that out, because I think a lot of Millwall fans had assumed that the deal wasn't going to happen. I think it's, again, don't want to start the rumor mill, but I believe the contract that he has signed was actually offered to him some time ago, and he's decided to take some considerable time. And fair enough, he's absolutely his duty to do that, but he's taken some considerable time in order to make the right decision. Do you have any insight over, what he's been doing this summer, and, any other clubs that may have been in the mix in terms of him making that final decision?
So, he was considered by some Italian clubs, as also some English clubs, also in the Premier League and in the higher rank of the Championship. And then he decided to join back Millwall because the offer was very good for him. It was a good project. Everything suited him. Also, the salary will be very important, as was confirmed by other outlets. So I think it's a project that suits him. He stays in London. He has a good opportunity. All the environment knows him very well, and he has got to know the environment as well. So, but yeah, there were other clubs. In Italy, he was proposed, for example, to Parma. There were reports from our outlets, from Marzio also, that Parma were interested. Yeah, they received a proposal from the players' camp, basically, and they pondered the possibility of acquiring him because of his experience also on the international field, because Parma are a newly promoted side in the Serie A, and they were looking for some sort of experience and some sort of opportunities, and he could have been one. But in the end, he decided for Millwall for the reasons we explained.
That's great, and I think it's a massive coup for Millwall. It's a real statement of intent. Our overall transfer business this summer has been pretty slow. He actually is our first official signing, to be honest. So we're very excited to get that one over the line. I think we'll talk a little bit about the impact we can expect to see from him. But it's great to hear you talk about there being other clubs in the mix from Italy, from the Premier League, and that Tanganga chose us. And my understanding is that we put a very, good contract proposal together, and certainly someone who will be one of, if not the highest paid players at Millwall. So a real statement of intent by the chairman, which is fantastic to see. My next question to you is, quite often there's a lot made around whether clubs get their first choice players. So I'm pretty confident that Millwall's first choice centre-back was to sign Japhet Tanganga. We've been courting him all summer. But at times, there's a lot of considerations for players as well, right? Do they get their first choice club? Because whilst one club may offer more money, another club may offer first team football, another club may be playing at a higher level. How important do you think that is in conversations? And how also do you think we were Tanganga's first club, in all honesty, first choice club?
So it's very important that the offer suits the player. And as I said, Millwall's offer was perfect for what Tanganga is looking for. So I don't know if maybe he had preferred to go to the Premier League or try a new experience elsewhere, but I don't think so. I don't think he would have joined any other team foreign. I think he would have stayed in the Premier League after the move didn't work out in Germany last year. He enjoyed England. He enjoyed also the Championship, and I think he also pushed as soon as he got the information that Millwall were concretely interested in him with the offer they made. So very important money, a very important project. Him being their first choice as a centre back, he was immediately convinced about this proposal. And in fact, July has just started, and a player like him has already decided what team to sign for. He could have waited for August. He could have waited for the last days, potentially waiting for something better. But this was his choice. So he is convinced about the choice he made.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, Luca, because I think a lot of Millwall fans think that he actually took too long to decide. So the fact that you're saying that you think he decided pretty quickly is really interesting. And I think one of the things, and tell me if you disagree, but I think one of the things that would definitely have been important to Tanganga would be he's going to play, right? This is a 25-year-old that if we remove games he's played in the Cup and also games he's played in Europe, he's actually only started 45 games, would you believe? Which when I read that blows my mind. He needs to be playing games. He knows he's going to come into a team that he understands how they play. We're going to play hopefully to his strengths. And he's going to be the first name on the team sheet, right? Pretty much. So I think that would have been really important. Don't you agree?
I do agree with this. Yeah, because he has played not so much, but of course in a team like Tottenham, even if you play like 20 matches, if you sum up cups, championship and everything, it is good. Like a 21, 22, 23-year-old as he has been to play 20 matches for Tottenham, but with some coaches more, with some coaches less, of course, depending on the choices and depending on the type of player they need. Then he went to Augsburg. It didn't work out, unfortunately, because of some changes also in the plan of the coaches and the coaching staff. That's the reason why, basically, it didn't work out. And in the end, he found himself well in Millwall already. And so he needs to start matches. He needs to test his physical ability. They tell me he's on the right track also physically, because he had some problems, as you perfectly know, some issues with his physical conditions, his legs and everything. Now they expect him to be absolutely 110% fit for the season, in the meaning of the fact that he can have an impact in the Millwall team. Not that he's not injury prone, they know it, but he can have an impact.
100%. And let's talk a bit about the impact that he had last season. And just one quick side note, unfortunately, I don't think he can play the first game of the season because he's banned. So, for Millwall fans listening to this, you'll remember that he got sent off in the last game of the season, showing real Millwall character. But he had a big impact on us last season. When we look at and we isolate, particularly in the Neil Harris reign, factually, and we talked about this in a previous show, by the way, guys. He was the 7th best defender for defensive actions in the Championship in the last 13 games. Fact. He was part of a back four that kept 6 clean sheets in 13 games, which is really good. And we only conceded 9 goals during that time. So you talk about impact and you talk about what he brings. I think if he can stay fit, he is a top Championship defender. And we've got ourselves a player that hopefully can be our centre-back alongside Jake Cooper for many years to come. Luca, I just want to ask you before we move on to a slightly different topic. What's your overall thoughts on Millwall? How much how much have you covered them before? Do you know about them, the Championship? Would love to just hear your perspective, when you hear the word Millwall.
So, in the pop culture here in Italy, of course, we don't get to know Millwall so much as you don't get to know maybe like Reggiana or Modena or whatever Serie B team maybe. But Millwall has always been associated with huge fans, with a huge fan base, with very strong spirit, also in the pop culture for the films, for the TV series. So that's what I knew basically about Millwall. Never been to a Millwall game. I'd love to come one time to enjoy this atmosphere, to see and really check and live this atmosphere by myself. And maybe it will happen next season. Who knows? So
Who knows?
I would be glad to, yeah.
Well, we'll talk about that in a minute because hopefully we can make that happen, mate. One last part on Tanganga then. So when you release a story like this, what sort of considerations do you put into it? Because my understanding as well is that, and keep me honest here, that I think Tanganga's agent is Italian, right?
So yeah, he has an Italian camp. Yeah, some members of the camp are Italian, but they are not replying at the phone lately. So I wasn't able to get the confirmation directly from them. I got from England the confirmation of the deal. But the market is international, it's globalized. So confirmation can come from China, Russia, wherever, United States. As long as the source is well informed on the deal, I take it. And this source was informed also about other deals regarding Premier League clubs and Championship clubs that I have already given news about. So I trusted the source, and that's the process, basically building your sources with relationship, with contacts, with years of knowing each other, with being friends, because the relationship and the friendship is more important than news. I would never ruin a relationship. I would never burn a source also for one piece of news, a single one. Because I think it's not worth it. Also on the human side, not just on the journalism paper side,
Yeah. No,
and I took into consideration also made the fact that Millwall fans could have been surprised about the news and could have texted me like, "Who are you? Who are you?" Because it's normal. I am just a nobody from Italy. But I try to do my best, and as soon as I have some concrete pieces of news, I post them, and I hope to make fans happy. But sometimes they are also pissed off. It's normal if the news it's not good for the club. They always text me, "Who are you? You're a clown." But it happens because the real world and the social Twitter and etc. world are two very different perspectives and two very different things, and you have to take it into account and to consider it before like being frustrated about the comments. Really, I enjoy reading them.
All of them. I'm not so sure.
all of them. Yeah, I do. If they're bad, I smile. If they're positive, I smile. And anytime I can try to answer some sort of doubts, I do.
Well, just to pick up on a couple of things there, you're certainly not a nobody, mate. You're certainly building out your presence. I think you got 14,600 followers. You're part of a very prestigious group as well, and you certainly made a lot of Millwall fans happy when you broke the news. I think it was on Saturday. But I would love to talk to you now a little bit about you, if that's all right, and about what you do, etc. So, yeah, I mean, Luca, just tell me, like, what exactly is your role and what does it involve?
So, at the Marzio's website and in his team, I look for news, of course, because our main goals is to bring transfer market news that are 100% true, checked, verified with reliable sources to bring them on. Di Marzio has formed a team. In his team, one of the best in the world, one of the best in history of transfer market journalism, of course. I consider him the GOAT of this job because basically he created it. Because before Di Marzio, it was very, very difficult to find a journalist that covered transfer market on an international level, not just in Italy. Basically, before him, the Italians were covering Italy, English were covering the English market, etc. So it was very local, it was very on paper, and it was very gossip-ish, we would say. The fact like club linked with this, club linked with that, but it was just links. Now it's way more international. Fabrizio comes from Di Marzio's team too, Matteo Moretto and many others. So it's a winning team, and I look for news, also write interviews, articles, etc. So it's a very general job.
Fantastic. And by the way, when Luca said Fabrizio there, he means Fabrizio Romano, who actually initially broke the news that Millwall was signing him on loan. And then I think your group, Luca, keep me honest here, you also broke the news about Tanganga going to Augsburg. So you're very well connected. You know, you and your group have certainly been part of the whole Tanganga journey, if you like, over the last 18 months. Yeah. So Luca, just to ask you, you know, how did you get into the world that you work in right now?
So it was very simple to me. It was really a passion, you know. It all started as a passion when I was around 10 years old, something like this, watching TV, watching my current boss on TV, speaking about all the deals and Italian transfers and not just Italian ones. And I looked at him and I said, yeah, I want to be like him in the future, you know. So I started very early to, you know, build a website of my own. But it was a very simple blog, you know, the ones that are free blogs, just to start writing, start doing something also for your family and friends, you know, just for them to look at. And then when I was like 12 or 13, I started an Instagram page, two actually, one regarding transfer market, the other one regarding female football, women's football. And the project went well, actually, because in Italy there was a lot of interest into women's football in those years. Now it cooled down. And after this, in summer 2019, I got to know Gianluca Di Marzio directly in person, meeting him in Milano. It's funny how I met him because I waited for him outside the restaurant. I know he was there, I knew. And I was like, I stay here. So he finished his lunch at 4:45 p.m. Okay. I had waited for like 4 hours outside. And then he came outside. I introduced myself. And he was working, by the way. They were the last days of August. So it was very difficult even to speak with him because he was on the phone, he was on call. So I introduced myself.
Day, right?
Okay, mate, okay. And then the next day, but I wasn't satisfied by this reply, basically, no. But I understand him because he was working very hard. So the next day, I went outside again, and the owner of the restaurant let me in because he saw I introduced myself to him, and he saw me, etc. And he appreciated what I was trying to build. And so, because I was still very, very young back then, I'm still very young, but at that time I was really a kid. And I introduced myself to Gianluca once again, and he was like very surprised by the fact that a kid like 1 meter and 60 centimeter tall was like very, very kid, you know, also in the voice, Mickey Mouse voice, etc. And he was very surprised, and he told me, yeah, if you got news, send me. And he gave me his phone contact. I happened to have news because in the past years I had built connections already, and so as soon as I got them, I sent them to Gianluca, and that's how we built this very good relationship that has now brought me to even release Millwall news.
Yeah, I mean, wow, it just shows you like your persistence paid off, right? And now you're evolving, and I assume that your aspiration is to literally be like him one day, right?
Yeah, be like him, but in the meaning of giving a new revolution to the system he created. Because I think that in journalism, the way you become the best in transfer market journalism is to change, but it's also a general rule that can be applied to basically everything. as soon as you change the paradigms of the work in a way that all the other people directly follow you and compare themselves to you, you are the best. So
Yep.
the project is to slowly improve and learn as much as I possibly can in order to understand what can be the future of the job and change the paradigms in the regards and to make them happen in the vision and the plan that I think is the future.
Yep.
If I understood correctly and if I apply correctly the process, I will be the one followed by the others. Like firstly Gianluca did, making the transfer market international, starting with the Guardiola to Bayern Munich news. That was the first real international news. A news coming from an Italian journalist regarding a Spanish manager to a German club.
So tell me, I'm really interested to understand, and I'm sure any aspiring journalist listening will be, what does a typical day look like, and how does that even look like on deadline day? I can imagine it's chaos.
So yeah, it's very chaotic, and you should try to always be precise because the news, of course, have to be precise. My typical day when I'm in Milano looks like, I don't know if you have seen the video with BR Football some years ago, the report in which they show a typical day of him. It's basically the same because in Milano we have this tradition of people of the transfer market meeting each other in the hotels of the city center or in the headquarters. Each club has basically an headquarter in Milano, and so you get there and you try to spot them meeting because it's the fastest way possible to get news. If you see them one with each other and you associate, agent has those players, club looks for those players, and then you ask them and they confirm. So that's a typical way. So I start like 10 a.m. going around, then I have my lunch, and then we go back looking for news. And you never have to look at the clock because it can happen at 10 a.m., it can happen at 10 p.m. that you get the scoop, or it can never happen that day or that week, that month, but maybe the month after. Because after COVID, especially, this habit took a little, step back, of course, and they are also meeting through video and calls. Deadline day is crazy because in Milano there is one hotel in which all the football, directors, agents, and journalists reunite together in just one single location to make the
Wow.
deals happen. And so you go around there and you try to look at the tables. Oh, this agent is with this club, so they're doing this, that, and it's crazy. I really think it can be interesting also to see some sort of transfer market event like this also in foreign countries.
Mm.
Yeah,
You need to come over to England, man, and see what
yeah.
it's like over here. No, fantastic, mate. Fantastic. Thank you. Just sharing with the listeners, we've had a few technical issues, which is why we sort of might be jumping around a little bit. But what we're going to do now is we're just going to, in interest of time, Luca, we're going to go to the quickfire round. So I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions and would just love you to, give me the first thing that comes to your head. Okay. So first question, who do you think will win the Euros?
Spain.
Spain. Okay. I agree. I don't like your answer, but I agree. What is one motto that you live your life by?
Don't stop when you're tired, stop when you're done. And it applies also to journalism.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's great. And I can tell by the way your passion for it, by the way, is phenomenal. What is the biggest news you've ever broke? The biggest news story or the biggest transfer that you've ever broke, other than Tanganga?
It's difficult. It's difficult to say because there are many, possible answers. In the meaning that maybe when David Raya was a really done deal to Arsenal, I was the one that broke it. But also discovering meetings in Milano. For example, the story between Gianluca Scamacca and PSG 2 summers ago was very interesting to break, and many others. But I would say Raya won because of the importance of the news. Could be the one, but it was not really an exclusive. It was already being said that the deal was progressing, etc. But the done deal was a call of mine. While on deals like surprising ones, there are few. In January, I enjoyed two particularly. I just mentioned the previous transfer window because of time also being considered, and because I remember them better. And they were the Vitinha to Genoa one, because no one expected Genoa to buy another striker, and they bought him from Marseille. And it was a good piece of story, and no one had ever spoken about it. And the day later, it was already official, so it was kept secret, and I had the luck of discovering it through sources. And another one, I would say, Luciana Goumet to Sevilla in Spain, because everybody already announced like a very done deal, signed, etc. in Marseille. He was expected to fly to Marseille in the night at 2 a.m. in the morning, in the night. I get the text. He doesn't go to Marseille. He goes to Sevilla. If you want to trust me, trust me. And the source was very, very, very reliable. I never missed once with that source. So at 2 a.m., I just tweeted, he's going to Sevilla and not to Marseille. And all the Marseille fans say, you're going against Fabrizio, you're going against this, that, RMC, L'Equipe. I said, I trust the source. And it happened in the end. So that was very good.
Wow. I mean, that just shows you the importance of sources, right? And maybe that leads nicely to my next question, which is, what is one tip that you would give for any aspiring sports football transfer market journalists?
The first that Gianluca gave me: never reveal your source and build human relationships.
Love that. Well, it sounds like you're very good at both, mate. So well done.
Thank you. It comes from the boss directly, so that's why it's a good advice, not from me.
You have to credit him, man. You have to credit him. Next question: do you want to come to a Millwall game?
I would like to. Yeah, I would love. And I plan to come to London for next season, so maybe we make it happen.
We will certainly make it happen. You let me know when you're in town, and we will get you a ticket to the infamous Den. And then final question before we close out: how can people find you? What's your social media? Yeah, how can people find out more about Luca Bendoni?
Just look at my name on Google. You find my Gianluca Di Marzio account. So basically, the account of in our website with mine articles. And then just look at my name on social media, X, or if you want, call the old-fashioned way, Twitter, and Instagram. I don't use Facebook really much, so basically it's just Instagram, posting stories of the tweets I make, and Twitter. That is the most important one for journalism and instant share. So thank you, mate.
No, thank you. And, I think... Listen, I'm sure in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, we're going to look back and be like, wow, we had Luca Bendoni on Chat with Chaps, and this is a huge scoop.
Appreciate it.
Thank you ever so much for coming on. Thank you for, just be open to talk to us. We really do appreciate it. A club like ours doesn't always get the limelight. So, we really do appreciate it, and hope to see you down the Den soon.
Thanks a lot, mate. Thank you.
Thanks, Luca. Bye.
Ciao.
Sports Social Podcast Network.